What's up, guys? Welcome back to day 3 of the $100 a day challenge. So we pick up King Jack here in the mandatory straddle, and we raise it up to 12, and we are going to get an uncontested win to take this one down early on. So that was a great start for us. And we folded a couple hands in between this and the last hand, and then we get to 6-7 of hearts. All right, if you're under the age of 15, relax. I understand 6-7's a huge thing going on right now. So we're going to try to win a pot for you guys. The player behind the button raises to 12, and the button calls. We're going to call as well to see a flop, and we flop pretty decent. We have an open ender with the 4-5-10 flop. So we are going to check and float to see what goes on. This player is going to bet 20, the same player that bet pre-flop, and everybody's going to call to see the turn. When the board pairs with the 5 on the turn, we don't love it. It's not a great card for us. Now we could be drawing to something that is not even a winning hand because somebody could already have a full house. And when this player raises to 54, it's about half pot. We think about it for a second, and we decide to lay it down. And I'm going to play this one out for you guys because this other player does call, and we would have hit the straight on the river. And then to make things even worse, this player is going to bet 160, and the other player is going to get a call. So the pot gets pretty big, and we would have had the best hand here. So kind of stinks watching that one out. So I wanted to share that one with you guys. But that's a situation where we can't play results-oriented, and we made a good fold, and unfortunately, we just got unlucky. And that's going to happen in poker. So then we are here with 5-3 of diamonds. One player raised to 10, and we decided to call. We hit our 5 on the flop, and then this player is going to decide to bet. And when he bets here, we have bottom pair. We don't really have much to continue with, especially when he goes all in. So we are just going to lay it down and live to see another hand. And then we picked up 6-3 here on the button. And since we're in position only facing the blinds, we are going to raise to 12. And we get it through, and we just take it down nice and easy there. This hand is probably the worst hand of the day. For me, I made a lot of errors in this hand, and we are going to walk through that right now together. So I am behind the button right now with ace-10 of clubs, and so we're going to be in position through the rest of this hand, which is exactly what we are looking for. This player is going to raise to 52, and when this happens, I don't really think about it much, but I decide to call. We really have to proceed with caution here when they raise to 52. They could be doing this with pocket pairs, but they could also be doing this with a better ace. And I was thinking that in the moment. And so when they bet 38 on the flop, this is pretty small in proportion to the pot. So we are going to call. On the turn here, they decide to slow it down, and they're going to check it over to us. Again, like I said, we don't want to bloat this pot. So I thought about betting, but we're just going to check to see that river. This player on the river, when the queen hits, is going to decide to go all in to put the pressure on us. And now we are stuck with a tough decision. So when we called that bet pre-flop, we really have to be thinking that they are limited to jacks, tens, or a better ace. And unfortunately, they do have the better ace. And so we make a pretty bad call. And looking back on this, I wish this is one of those hands that I could just go back in time and just think it through for a little bit longer and make a fold. But unfortunately, we did need to rebuy, as you saw there. So we are down 400 to start. Obviously not what we're looking for when we're just trying to make 100. But we have chips for a reason, and we have bankroll for a reason. So we are going to keep playing. We have Jack 10 here. We raise it up pre-flop, and we only had one opponent call. When we flop an open-ender here, we just check it over, not having much. And our opponent's going to bet 12, pretty easy call. We're going to pick up top pair here with the 10, and we are going to check it over again to see what our opponent does. They check it back to us, which is a good sign for us, probably saying that our hand is the best. And then the queen comes on the river, and we hit a straight, so we got to bet that, and our opponent folds, and we make a little money there. Now here we are in the small blind with 2-3, only facing the other blind, so we decide to call hoping to see a cheap flop. And this opponent's going to raise to 18. We think about it for a little bit, and we decide to make a call. And we actually flop pretty decent with a flush draw, even though the board is paired. We do like this flush draw because they probably don't have pocket tens, and that's the only full house right now. If they have a 6, we could still outdraw them and hit. So when he bets 15, we elect to raise here, kind of taking that line where we could represent a 6 with our flush draw, and maybe we get a fold there. He doesn't fold, but we are going to continue telling our story of the fact that we might have a 6 with our flush draw, especially when the ace hits on the turn. So we bet 53 here, and our opponent, again, is going to think it over for a second, and then he's going to stick in the call. We don't hit the flush on the river, so, as our name is, we are Big Daddy Bluff. We're going to stick with that. We go for the big bet on the river, the big bluff. We don't have anything. We got 3 high. We bet 160, and our opponent is going to think it over, even buys a little time bank for an extra thinking. So they think, which is good for us. We're putting them in a tough spot, just what we want to do. Unfortunately, they are going to make the call, and they have ace-king, and we are going to lose, so our bluff does not get through. And just like that, we are down about $700 almost, so definitely not a good start to the day. Here we are with Queen Jack, and we are going to raise it up to 12, facing the blinds and the button, and we are going to get it uncontested. Now, I'm pretty down right now. Things are looking grim, and we are just hoping we can battle back because we got a long ways to go. Now, when we pick up ace-king suited here, and we have 3 players before us bought in for $12, we are going to decide to raise it up to 48 here and see what we can do. 2 of those players with 12 fold, so that's some dead money for us, and we get 1 caller on the flop. With only 124 left and 129 in the pot, we really don't want to see a turn card, so we decide to jam our flush draw, and our opponent folds, and we scoop a pretty decent pot there to get us moving in the right direction. Here we are in the big blind with ace-3. The small blind raised it up pre-flop, and we called, and then we are going to call again on the flop, hoping that a deuce comes on the turn or we improve with our ace. When they check the turn, we're just going to check it back, and then they are also going to check the river, and we are just going to check with our 3, hoping that we win. And we do. They had a king high. They did not hit a pair. So we scoop a little small pot there. And here we are back again playing against that same opponent. They're going to race to 12. We're in position on them and on everybody as we have the button on us. And we are going to stick in the call for 12 with our ace-deuce offsuit. This player is going to think a little bit and then fold, and then this player is going to, I actually forget what they do. I think they just fold here. Yep, so they call. The flop comes with 3 hearts. Not really what we love to see here. I actually thought for a second that I had the ace of hearts, but it is not, as everybody can see. It's the ace of diamonds. This player thinks, and they check it over. And now it's on the pre-flop aggressor, and they're going to stab a bet of 15, and we don't have anything going, so we're just going to lay that one down. And here we are, right behind the button, through the next orbit, and we have pocket deuces. When this player bets to 10, we just decide to call it a set mine, and we hit our deuce on the flop, so that is beautiful. They bet 11 on the flop. It's not a huge bet, but there's not really much that can happen on the turn that's bad for us. So we decide to just stick in the call, hoping that they size it up a little bit here on the turn. The pot's only $56, and we don't want to raise too fast, especially on a board that's not too dynamic like this. They do decide to size it up, and they bet 41 here on the turn. So we're going to think... I don't think calling's the right option here, so we are going to stick in a raise here to 112. And then this opponent clearly does not believe us as they think here and think here. And they are going to jam it on top of us and go all in. And we love our hand with our trip deuces, and we call, and they have ace 10 for top pair, and we're going to scoop that one. So that was a pretty big pot to get us back over our initial buy-in of 400 after being down to 160, but we did lose our first buy-in of 400, so we're still battling back. Here we're with ace 9 of diamonds in the big blind, and we're going to raise it up to 12 with the suited ace. We always like to do that just because we have the possibility of hitting the nuts. This player is not at the table, and so they fold their hand automatically due to time, and we're going to scoop that one up. Here we're on the button with pocket sixes. We're going to raise it up to 12, and again, another uncontested pot. So we'll never complain about taking down a hand when we don't have to do anything except for betting. It's pretty much just free chips, and if we could have that happen every hand, then we'd never lose. So, even though they're small pots, they are coming our way. We're in the automatic straddle here with 5-7 of diamonds, obviously offsuit, not a hand that we want to see a flop with, but we flop pretty good. It comes king, king, 7, so we flop a pair, and we are just hoping that he doesn't have a king here. When he checks to us, we decide to bet 11, and when he just calls, it pretty much tells us he doesn't have a king. We don't want to bloat the pot when the flush comes in on the turn. Still thinking that maybe he doesn't have a king, and especially on the river when the king comes in. So we go and we bet small for value, and he calls us with the ace high. That's exactly the hand we were trying to target with that small bet there. And we take that one down to keep climbing our way back up. And we pick up 4-8 of diamonds here on the button, and we are just going to go with the same raise we've been raising to, which is 12. And this player is going to call. We flop middle pair here with the 4, and we have the backdoor diamonds. So we are going to c-bet 420 when the opponent checks it to us, and they are going to lay it down. Fortunately, I ran out of time here, so we had to cash out for a loss of 191. This is a bad loss for our first session of the day, as we were just looking to take a win. But we were down almost $700. So walking away down less than 200 after being down 700 is not too bad. So when we got out of work, we had to do some stuff, and then we got some time to play again, so we didn't have to take the loss for the day. And our first hand here, we have Queen 10 offsuit, and the first hand, again, if you haven't seen the other videos, is an automatic buy-in. So the straddle here is 8, as we are playing 2-4-8, different than the 1-2-4 this morning. This opponent is going to raise it up to $48, and we're going to think for a second. This isn't the greatest hand. We are in position, however, and so we decide to make a looser kind of call here with this hand. Again, not a hand I'm going to call with all the time, but being in position, being the first hand at the table, the other opponents don't know a lot about us, and we flop decent flop with middle pair here with our queen. Obviously, we don't like the ace, so we're gonna raise just to try to see where we're at. When a player bets so small on the flop like this, it just looks like a c-bet to us, so maybe we could get them to fold. Also, when we raise here, most recreational players will check it on the turn like we see here, so we get to see a free river. When we don't improve on the turn or the river, we pretty much know that we lost here, or that it's going to be tough for us to win this hand, especially when the player just overjams like that. There's pretty much nothing we can do here except for fold. But we bought ourselves a free card and the opportunity to win with that raise on the flop, and that's why we decided to go for that there. Now here we are with 7-8, and we raised to 24. This player raises to 72, and that's probably not an amount we could call anyways, but the other player right here is going to make it even easier and raise it up to 192, so we're going to lay that one down for a small loss there. Then we're in the big blind here. We have ace-9 offsuit, and the small blind raises to 32, and we're going to stick in the call. We flop jack-ace, so we got the pair of aces in one of our Opponent checks it to us. It is a strange check, pretty much telling us he either doesn't have an ace or he has a weak ace here because he checked it when he was a pre-flop aggressor. Usually you want to stay aggressive when you hit your flops. So we're going to do the betting for us, and he calls, and then we see a turn. Turn doesn't change much, so we decide to keep betting. He decides to call, and then when the 7 comes in on the river and he checks, we don't want to give him the opportunity to maybe jam over us with a bet. So we just check it because we got decent showdown value, and we do see there that we have the better ace with ace 9 compared to his ace 5. So we take down a pot there. Then we wake up in the small blind again with aces, and we raise it up, and our opponent is going to call. The flop comes king, king, deuce. I don't really love this flop as ace, king is now beating us. Same with king, jack, king, queen, anything with the queen pretty much that could have been calling us pre-flop. So we decide to bet to 74, and our opponent is going to think it over and fold. So we had a little bit of a win there, and we avoid the scary maybe raise and maybe making it tough for us with aces there. Then we're on the button here with king jack. Our opponent's going to raise it up to 28, and we are going to stick in the call in position with a pretty decent hand. We flop king high, so can't really ask for much else. This is a pretty decent flop for us. When we bet and he raises, we are just going to snap him off. We don't really think that he has much, and he could just be doing this to try to get us to fold. When he checks here and the turn doesn't do anything else, we're just going to check it back. The river comes in probably the worst card ever. It brings in the flush with the ace, and now any ace beats us, and he is going to bet, and we just decide to call, and we take down the win as he had nothing. So that was actually a pretty good outcome for us. Probably not the best call in the long term, but we do make that. Then we were here with queen jack. We raised it up, and we had 2 callers pre-flop. And we got queen jack of diamonds, and we flop a flush. And not only do we flop a flush, but we have a straight flush draw. We bet on the flop. We choose to go a little smaller because we don't want to scare anyone away yet. One player does fold and one player calls. On the turn, it's a 4 hearts, doesn't change much, so we bet 71, kind of keeping it small. And the pot's at 284 here, so we decide to bet 210 on the river. And our opponent is going to think it over, and he must not have too good of a hand. Maybe he was calling with the ace or the king of hearts. The ace or the king of diamonds, just trying to hit a flush. So he's going to lay it down, and we take down a pretty decent-sized pot. And that gets our stack from 500 to 962, which means this was a profit on this session of $462. Bringing our total for the day to be plus $270.30 with those 2 sessions combined. So, honestly, not a terrible day. I was really, down bad at the start of the day. I was down almost 700. I was just thinking to myself, oh, man, I really wish I could have that hand back with the ace-10 of clubs. That was just such a bad play by me. And, that's a tough hand for me, especially with a weak ace. I probably shouldn't have even called pre-flop in retrospect. And that's the kind of position you can put yourself in when you don't play super tight pre-flop. So thanks for watching. We made it back. So 3 days in a row, and we've made over $100 each day. Come back tomorrow for day 4, and hopefully we can do it all again. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys then.